Howdy, this is Lemmy with RevZilla, here to talk to you today about Acerbis Fuel Tanks. You should be looking into an Acerbis fuel tank for a variety of reasons, but mostly these are going to be geared towards riders on gasoline-powered motorcycles. If you have an electric bike, completely scratch this. These are great replacement tanks or upgrade tanks. We'll talk about who those are for in just a moment. Now these are going to be made primarily by Acerbis for those riders on dualies as well as dirt bikes. So whether you've got a dual sport machine or you don't have any turn signals at all, if you're riding off-road, Acerbis probably got you covered. Use our bike finder, we're going to show you the tank that fits your bike specifically. Installation on these I'm going to call somewhere between a 1 and a 2 beard for most people. It really is very simple. There's slight differences between carbureted and fuel injected bikes. Neither one is particularly difficult. We'll touch on that a little bit more in just a moment. So if you haven't heard of Acerbis, my guess is you either haven't been riding dirt bikes very long or you've been living under a rock. I'm not really sure what to say. They've been around for a long time, since 1973, making high quality products. I think Acerbis is probably best known for their plastic items. So fuel tanks, and I would say dirt bike plastics as well, is really what most riders know these guys for. And Acerbis is making some pretty high quality fuel tanks here. So there's a couple things you need to know about these. I'm going to picture a few different riders buying these. I'm going to picture some riders who have had a wreck. They've dented their steel tank, they've ripped it open, it's no longer usable. They're probably going to be looking at Acerbis fuel tanks. Then there's going to be other folks whose stock tank is still working, it's serving its purpose, but you just need more fuel. Almost every single Acerbis fuel tank you're going to see offers upgraded capacity over the OEM tank for the machine it was designed for. And then of course the third and final group, very small people, you're going to notice on this thing we have a natural tank on the CRF behind me here. This is kind of like a poor man's fuel gauge. You can actually see the fuel sloshing around in there. So if it does bother you to not know how much gas is in your tank, this is a very cheap and effective solution for that issue. These tanks are made of polyurethane. It's a great material to make a fuel tank out of. Unlike your OEM steel tank, if you're on a dual sport, or possibly your plastic one that's falling apart in your dirt bike, polyurethane is really abrasion resistant. It's also impact resistant too, so you can crash your bike with aplomb and not worry about your fuel tank taking a dive. These are pretty rugged pieces here. Other than that, there's not a whole lot to say about these. They're very simple to install. It's a container to hold fuel. I don't really know that there's that much more I can tell you about it other than it works and it looks cool. They also have quite a bit of function. As I've said, these things do offer a little bit of an upgrade as far as the amount of fuel you can carry on your motorcycle. Some of these get absolutely huge. For instance, I think on the XR650L model, we go to a 5.8 gallon tank, which I think is like a 4 gallon increase over stock. It's pretty significant. So if you're looking to get a little bit more range out of your dually especially, that's probably something that's going to be a big selling point for most of you guys out there. So let's move on to installation on here. As I'd mentioned, this is a pretty easy install depending on what you're working on. I'm going to call it somewhere between 1 and 2 beers for most folks. Now, if you're installing this on a carbureted motorcycle, you're not going to have much problem. It's really a very straightforward swap. Some models will use your OEM petcock. Other models will actually include a petcock or possibly even dual petcocks, depending on the setup of the motorcycle itself. Now, you should also know too, just about everything you need is included right there in the box. So all your new mounting hardware, as well as your fuel cap and your fuel hose, your vent hose, is all included in there. It's a very simple installation. Everything you need is in the box. It's not difficult to get one of these onto your motorcycle. If you're working with a fuel injected machine, I would say almost exactly the same applies. Obviously, there's no provisions for a petcock there, but rather when you flip your fuel tank over, you're going to notice your fuel pump mounting plate is on your OEM tank, and these are made to accept that factory OEM plate. So all you're going to do is transfer that stuff over. You may want to consider a fresh gasket if yours is shot when you're making the swap, but either way, it's not a very difficult installation. Regardless of whether you're on a carbureted or a fuel injected machine, you should be able to get this job done pretty simply. I really like these things. They're quality pieces. They're made nicely. Lots and lots of riders have been well served by Acerbis tanks for years. Don't take my word for it though. Click that info button on your desktop or your mobile device. See what some other riders who are rocking an Acerbis tank on their rig have to say about it. If you need a little bit more individualized attention, don't be afraid to pick up the horn. Get in touch with one of our gear geeks, 877-792-9455. Of course, you can always drop us an email to cs@revzilla.com. I'm Lemmy. I'm out of here.